and the Tathagatas, truthfully pointed out, recognized, made public, and widely shown. When in agreement with this, the truth is rightly understood as neither negative nor affirmative, discrimination ceases to rise, and there is a state conformable to self-realization by means of noble wisdom, which is not the course of controversy pertaining to the philosophers, Sravakas, and Pratyekabuddhas. This is right knowledge. These are, Mohammadi, the 5 dharmas, and in them are included the 3 svabhavas, the 8 vijnanas, the twofold egolessness, and all the Buddha truths. In this, Mohammadi, reflect well with your own wisdom and let others do the same, and do not allow yourself to be led by another. So it is said. 5. The 5 dharmas, the svabhavas, the 8 vijnanas, and the twofold egolessness. They are all embraced in the Mahayana. 6. Name, appearance, and discrimination correspond to the first 2 svabhavas, while right knowledge and suchness are the parinishpanna. 85. At that time again, Mohammadi the Bodhisattva Mahasattva said this to the Blessed One. It is told by the Blessed One in the canonical text, the Tathagatas of the past, present, and future are like the sands of the river Ganga. Blessed One, is this to be accepted literally? Or is there another distinct meaning? Pray tell me, Blessed One. The Blessed One said, Mohammadi, do not take it in its literal sense. For, Mohammadi, the Buddhas of the 3 divisions of time are not measurable by the measurement of the sands of the Ganga. Why? Because an analogy which is superior to anything of the world and surpasses it cannot be called an analogy, since there is in it something resembling and something not resembling. The Tathagatas, Arhats, fully enlightened ones do not give out such an analogy that has in it something resembling and something not resembling and that is superior to the world and surpasses it. But this comparison is only given out, Mohammadi, by myself and the Tathagatas, in which the Tathagatas, Arhats, fully enlightened ones are said to be like the sands of the river Ganga. The idea is to terrify those ignorant and simple-minded ones who, tenaciously clinging to the idea of permanency and impermanency, and giving themselves up to the ways of thinking and the erroneous views of the philosophers, follow up the wheel of transmigration. To those who, anxious to escape the intricacies of the wheel of existence, seek after the excellent state, thinking how this could be realized, it is told them that the appearance of the Tathagatas is not like the blooming of the Udambara flower, because they will thereby see that the attainment of Buddhahood is not a difficult undertaking and will pu1 forward their energy. But it is told in the canonical text that the Tathagatas appear as rarely as the Udambara flower, and this is in consideration of those people who are to be led by me. Mohammadi, however, no one has ever seen the Udambara flower blooming, nor will anyone. While, Mohammadi, the Tathagatas are at present in the world, they were seen and are to be seen. To say that the Tathagatas appear as rarely as the Udambara flower has really no reference to the establishment of the truth itself. When Mohammadi, the establishment of the truth itself is pointed out, it surpasses beyond measure anything in the world that can be offered as an analogy to it, because the ignorant are incapable of believing. And thus there is an unbelief on the part of the ignorant and simple-minded. There is indeed no room for analogies to enter in the realm of self-realization which is effected by means of noble wisdom. The truth transcends all the notions that are characteristic of the Siddha, Manas, and Manovijnana. The truth is the Tathagatas, and, therefore, in them there is nothing describable by analogy. But, Mohammadi, sometimes a comparison is made use of. That is to say, the Tathagatas are said to be like the sands of the river Ganga, because they are the same and impartial to all things, because they are free from imagination and discrimination. For example, Mohammadi, the sands of the river Ganga are tossed about by the fishes, tortoises, porpoises, crocodiles, buffaloes, lions, elephants, etc. But they are free from imagination and discrimination. For they do not resent, saying, "We are downtrodden," or "We are not." They are non-discriminative, pure in themselves, separated from defilement. In the same way, Mohammadi, The self-realization of noble wisdom which has been attained by the Tathagatas, Arhats, fully enlightened ones, is like the river Ganga, and their powers, psychic faculties, and self-control are like the sands. And however much they are tossed about by the fishes of the philosophers, by the ignorant who belong to other schools, they are not troubled by imaginations and discriminations. Because of their original vows, the Tathagatas whose hearts are filled with all the happiness of the Samapati are not troubled by imaginations and discriminations with regard to beings. Therefore, the Tathagatas, like the sands of the river Ganga, are free from partiality because of their being devoid of likes and dislikes. To illustrate, Mahamati. As the sands of the river Ganga partake of the character of the earth, the conflagration that will break out at the end of the kalpa may burn the earth but does not destroy its self-nature. Mahamati. The earth is not consumed because of its being inseparably connected with the element of fire. And it is only the ignorant and simple-minded that on account of their falling into false ideas imagine the earth being consumed by fire. But as it supplies the material cause to the element fire, it is never consumed. In the same way, Mahamati, the Dharmakaya of the Tathagatas, like the sands of the river Ganga, is never destroyed. To illustrate, Mahamati. The sands of the river Ganga are immeasurable. In the same way, Mahamati. The rays of light of the Tathagatas are beyond measure, which are emitted by them in all the Buddha assemblies in order to bring beings to maturity and arouse them to the knowledge of the truth. To illustrate, Mahamati. The sands of the river Ganga do not assume another nature than itself, remaining forever the same. In the same way, Mahamati, the Tathagatas, Arhats, fully enlightened ones are neither evolving nor disappearing in transmigration because in them the cause of making them come into existence is destroyed. To illustrate, Mahamati. The sands of the river Ganga are unconcerned whether they are carried away or whether more is added into them. In the same way, Mahamati, the knowledge of the Tathagatas which is exercised for the maturing of beings is neither exhausted nor augmented, because the Dharma is without a physical body. Mahamati, that which has a physical body is subject to annihilation, but not that which has no physical body. And the Dharma is not a physical body. To illustrate, Mahamati. The sands of the river Ganga, however much they are compressed for the sake of the ghee and oil, are destitute of them. In the same way, Mahamati. The Tathagatas never abandon their deep concerns one and original vows and happiness as regards the Dharmadhatu. However hard they are oppressed with pain for the sake of beings, as long as all beings have not yet been led into nirvana by the Tathagatas, who are endowed with a great compassionate heart. To illustrate, Mahamati. The sands of the river Ganga are drawn along with the flow of the stream, but not where there is no water. In the same way, Mahamati, the Tathagata's teaching in regard to all the Buddha truths takes place along the flow of the nirvana stream. And for this reason the Tathagatas are said to be like the sands of the river Ganga. Mahamati, in Tathagata there is no sense of going away. Mahamati, going away means destruction. Mahamati, the primary limit of transmigration is unknown. Not being known, how can I talk of the sense of going away? The sense of going away, Mahamati, is annihilation, and this is not known by the ignorant and simple-minded. Mahamati said, if, blessed one, the primary limit of transmigration of all beings is unknowable, how is the emancipation of beings knowable? The blessed one said, Mahamati. When it is understood that the objective world is nothing but what is seen of the mind itself, the habit energy of false speculations and erroneous discriminations which have been going on since beginningless time is removed. And there is a revulsion or turning back at the basis of discrimination. This is emancipation, Mahamati, and not annihilation. Therefore, Mahamati, there cannot be any talk about endlessness. To be endless in limit, Mahamati, is another name for discrimination. Apart from discriminations, there are no other beings. When all things external or internal are examined with intelligence, Mahamati, knowing and known are found to be quiescent. But when it is not recognized that all things rise from the discrimination of the mind itself, discrimination asserts itself. When this is understood, discrimination ceases. So it is said. 7. Those who regard the removers of obstruction i.e. Buddhas as neither destroyed nor departed forever, like the sands of the Ganga, see the Tathagata. 8. Like the sands of the Ganga, they are devoid of all error. They flow along the stream and are permanent, and so is the essence or nature of Buddhahood. 86. At that time again, Mahamati the Bodhisattva Mahasattva said this to the Blessed One. Tell me, Blessed One. Tell me, Shugata, Tathagata, Arhat, fully enlightened one, regarding the momentary destruction of all things and their distinctive signs. Blessed One, what is meant by all things being momentary? The Blessed One replied. Then, Mahamati, listen well and reflect well within yourself. I will tell you. Certainly, Blessed One, said Mahamati the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, and gave ear to the Blessed One. The Blessed One said this to him. Mahamati. All things we speak of, and they are good or bad, effect-producing or not effect-producing, of this world or of superworld, faulty or faultless, of evil flowings or the non-flowings, receptive or non-receptive. In short, Mahamati, the 5 appropriating one skandhas have their rise from the habit energy of the Siddha, Manas, and Manovijnana, they are imagined good or bad. Mahamati. The happiness of the samadhi and the attainments resulting therefrom, which belong to the wise by reason of their abiding in the happiness of the existing world, are called the non-outflowing goods. Again, Mahamati, by good and bad are meant the 8 vijnanas. What are the 8? They are the Tathagata Garbha known as the Alaya Vijnana, Manas, Manovijnana, and the system of the 5 vijnanas as described by the philosophers. Now, Mahamati, the system of the 5 vijnanas is together with the Manovijnana. And there is an undivided succession and differentiation of good and bad, and the entire body moves on continuously and closely bound together. Moving on, it comes to an end. But as it fails to understand that there is nothing in the world but what is seen of mind only, there is the rising of another Vijnana system following the cessation of the first. And the Manovijnana in union with the system of the 5 Vijnanas, perceiving the difference of forms and figures, is set in motion, not remaining still even for a moment. This I call momentariness. Mahamati, momentary is the Alaya Vijnana known as the Tathagata Garbha, which is together with the manas and with the habit energy of the evolving vijnanas. This is momentary. But the Alaya Vijnana which is together with the habit energy of the non-outflows is not momentary. This is not understood by the ignorant and simple-minded who are addicted to the doctrine of momentariness. Not understanding the momentariness and non-momentariness of all things, they cherish nihilism whereby they even try to destroy the unmade. Mahamati, the system itself of the 5 vijnanas is not subject to transmigration, nor does it suffer pleasure and pain, nor is it conducive to nirvana. But, Mahamati, the Tathagata Garbha is together with the cause that suffers pleasure and pain. It is this that is set in motion and ceases to work. It is stupefied by the fourfold habit energy. But the ignorant do not understand it, as their thoughts are infused with the habit energy of discrimination which cherishes the view of momentariness. Further, Mahamati, gold, vajra, and the relics of the Buddha, owing to their specific character, are never destroyed but remain the same until the end of time. If, Mahamati, the nature of enlightenment is momentary, the wise would lose their wiseness, but they have never lost it. Mahamati, gold, and vajra remain the same until the end of time. Remaining the same, they are neither diminished nor increased. How is it that the ignorant, failing to recognize the hidden meaning of all things internal and external, discriminate in the sense of momentariness? 87. Further, Mahamati said, it is again said by the Blessed One that by fulfilling the 6 paramithas Buddhahood is realized. What are the 6 paramithas? And how are they fulfilled? The Blessed One replied. Mahamati, there are 3 kinds of paramithas. What are the 3? They are the worldly, the superworldly, and the highest superworldly. Of these, Mahamati, the worldly paramithas are practiced thus. adhering tenaciously to the notion of an ego soul, and what belongs to it, and holding fast to dualism, those who are desirous for this world of form, etc., will practice the paramitha of charity in order to obtain the various realms of existence. In the same way, Mahamedi, the ignorant, will practice the paramithas of morality, patience, energy, dhyana, and prajna. Attaining the psychic powers, they will be born in Brahma's heaven. As to the superworldly paramithas, they are practiced by the Sravakas and Pratyekabuddhas whose thoughts are possessed by the notion of nirvana. The paramithas of charity, etc., are thus performed by them, who, like the ignorant, are desirous of enjoying nirvana for themselves. Again, Mahamedi, as to the highest superworldly paramithas, they are practiced by the Bodhisattva Mahasattvas who are the practicers of the highest form of spiritual discipline. That is, perceiving that there is nothing in the world but what is only seen of the mind itself. On account of discrimination, and understanding that duality is of the mind itself, they see that discrimination ceases to function, and that seizing and holding is non-existent, and free from all thoughts of attachment to individual objects which are of the mind itself. And in order to benefit and give happiness to all sentient beings, the Bodhisattvas practice the paramitha of charity. While dealing with an objective world, there is no rising in them of discrimination. They just practice morality, and this is the paramitha of morality. To practice patience with no thought of discrimination rising in them, and yet with full knowledge of grasped and grasping. This is the paramitha of patience. To exert oneself with energy from the first part of the night to its end, and in conformity with the disciplinary measures, and not to give rise to discrimination. This is the paramitha of energy. Not to cherish discrimination, not to fall into the philosopher's notion of nirvana. This is the paramitha of dhyana. As to the paramitha of prajna, when the discrimination of the mind itself ceases, when things are thoroughly examined by means of intelligence, there is no falling into dualism, and a revulsion takes place at the basis, while previous karma is not destroyed. When transcendental knowledge is exercised for the accomplishment of self-realization, then there is the paramitha of prajna. These, Mahamedi, are the paramithas and their meanings. 88. So it is said. 9. The created are empty, impermanent, momentary. So the ignorant discriminate. The meaning of momentariness is discriminated by means of the analogies of a river, a lamp, and seeds. 10. All things are non-existent, they are not momentary, quiescent, not subject to destruction, and unborn. This, I say, is the meaning of momentariness. 11. Birth and death succeed without interruption. This I do not point out for the ignorant. Owing to the uninterrupted succession of existence, discrimination moves on in the six paths. 12. Ignorance is the cause, and there is the general rising of minds, when form is not yet born, where is the abode of the middle existence. 13. If another mind is set in motion in an uninterrupted succession of deaths, where does it find its dependence, as form is not established in time? 14. If mind is set in motion, somewhere, somehow, the cause is an unreal one. It is not complete. How can one know of its momentary disappearances? 15. The attainment of the yogins, gold, the Buddha relics, and the heavenly palace of Abhasvara are indestructible by any worldly agencies. 16. Ever abiding are the truths attained by the Buddhas and their perfect knowledge. The nature of Buddhahood as realized by them. How can there be momentariness in them? 17. The city of the Gandharvas, Maya-like forms. How can they be otherwise than momentary? Realities are characterized with unreality, and how can they be causal agencies? Here ends the 6th chapter on momentariness.